Happy Sabbath. Mbele yenu ni Ziwani kwaya. Tunataka kumwabudu Mungu kupitia katika nyimbo. Tunaomba muweze kuunganika na sisi tukaweze kumwabudu Mungu katika roho na kweli. Naomba tuombe. Baba yetu uliye juu mbinguni, tunakushukuru kwa masaa haya ya leo. Umetuwezesha Baba kuweza kufika katika hekalu lako siku ya leo. Asante Baba kwa upendo wako uliotupenda siku ya leo. Na wakati mwingine Baba tumesimama mbele zako ili kukuabudu katika nyimbo zetu Baba. Tunaomba Roho Mtakatifu akatuongoze. Tunaomba kibali chako Baba tukakuabudu katika roho na kweli. Nyimbo zetu Baba tunapoimba zikapate kibali machoni pako na zikaguse wengi, mfalme wa amani. Tunaomba yakafike mbele kwa jina la Yesu Kristo. Naomba na nitakuamini. Amen.
sababu Bwana ameshinda mauti. Dunia yote leo itashangilia kwa sababu Bwana ameshinda mauti. Tunatembea kifua mbele twalimba kwa sababu Bwana ameshinda mauti. Dunia yote leo itashangilia kwa sababu Bwana ameshinda mauti.
Galilaya wanasema Yesu yupo, Yerusalemu wasema ni mshindi kaburini, wanasema amefufuka, wanapotea wazigusa alama. Furahini, Mwokozi kafufuka, furahini, Mwokozi kafufuka. Galilaya wanasema Yesu yupo, Yerusalemu wasema ni mshindi kaburini, wanasema amefufuka, wanapotea wazigusa alama. Furahini, Mwokozi kafufuka, furahini, Mwokozi kafufuka. Galilaya wanasema Yesu yupo, Yerusalemu wasema ni mshindi kaburini, wanasema amefufuka, wanapotea wazigusa alama. Furahini, Mwokozi kafufuka, furahini, Mwokozi kafufuka.
Nchi na vyote vijazavyo ni mali ya Mungu, mwanadamu tu mawakili wake. Tukihitaji kubarikiwa, tumjaribu Mungu kwa zaka na sadaka. Tumjaribuni Bwana wa majeshi, tumjaribuni Muumba wa vyote. Ameahidi tunapomjaribu kwa zaka, sadaka, kwa uaminifu, atafungua madirisha ya mbingu kwa ajili yetu. Tumjaribuni Bwana wa majeshi, tumjaribuni Muumba wa vyote. Ameahidi tunapomjaribu kwa zaka, sadaka, kwa uaminifu, atafungua madirisha ya mbingu kwa ajili yetu.
Remego jawa jawa, Rem Yesu, remego jawa jawa, Remo mariniteko, remego jawa jawa, Remo, Rem Yesu, remego jawa jawa, Remo mariniteko, Bia bia walang isal, bia bia walang isal. Shadrach, Meshach na Abednego
walichukuliwa mateka katika nchi ya Babeli. Walikataa kuabudu sanamu japo ni agizo la mfalme. Maana ilisikika nchini kote, watu wote wakaanguka kusujudu, na vijana watatu wa Ibrania walibaki wamesimama. Maana ilisikika nchini kote, watu wote wakaanguka kusujudu, na vijana watatu wa Ibrania walibaki wamesimama. Hatutaabudu sanamu, tutasimama, hatutasujudu, hata tukitupwa ndani ya moto, Mikaeli atashuka kwa ajili yetu. Hata asipotuokoa, hatutaanguka kuabudu sanamu ya kuchonga. Ewe mfalme, sikia, hatutarudi nyuma. Hatutaabudu sanamu, tutasimama, hatutasujudu, hata tukitupwa ndani ya moto, Mikaeli atashuka kwa ajili yetu. Hata asipotuokoa, hatutaanguka kuabudu sanamu ya kuchonga. Ewe mfalme, sikia, hatutarudi nyuma.
wakatupwa ndani ya moto
Waliowatupa wakafa katika nchi ya Babeli.
ilisikika nchini kote,
Watu wote wakaanguka kusujudu, na vijana watatu wa Ibrania walibaki wamesimama. Habari ilisikika nchini kote, watu wote wakaanguka kusujudu, na vijana watatu wa Ibrania walibaki wamesimama. Hatutaabudu sanamu, tutasimama, hatutasujudu, hata tukitupwa ndani ya moto, Mikaeli atashuka kwa ajili yetu. Hata asipotuokoa, hatutaanguka kuabudu sanamu ya kuchongwa. Ewe mfalme, sikia, hatutarudi nyuma. Tutasimama, hatutasujudu, ndani ya moto, Mikaeli atashuka kwa ajili yetu. Hata asipotuokoa, hatutaanguka kuabudu sanamu ya kuchongwa. Ewe mfalme, sikia, hatutarudi nyuma. Jambo taratimamo wadayo ni gima na wachwere ulimanyamo koneno pendo Yesu kabo wataseito chike luto chape aenyani omiyo nisayo madalalo wadayo ni gima na wachwere kamoda chengono gimira dogo itera epono kikayo ni mishpon omiyo nisayo madalalo wadayo Oh, Ukiona twaishi kwa utulivu, nia yako ni moja, kuvuruga safarini hauko, lengo lako kuleta vikwazo. Una maskani yako duniani, sisi tunayetu mbinguni. Mwanzo wa kusubiri utupishe, twende kwetu mbinguni. Ukiona twaishi kwa utulivu, nia yako ni moja, kuvuruga safarini hauko, lengo lako kuleta vikwazo. Una maskani yako duniani, sisi tunayetu mbinguni. Mwanzo wa kusubiri utupishe, twende kwetu mbinguni. Umepewa mamlaka juu yetu, hebu tupishe njia. Umenyimwa nafasi, ulishindwa pale msalabani. Mungu bado ni Mungu na hachoki kutuangaikia. Sisi wana wa Mfalme, ibilisi una nguvu juu yetu. Umepewa mamlaka juu yetu, hebu tupishe njia. Umenyimwa nafasi, ulishindwa pale msalabani. Mungu bado ni Mungu na hachoki kutuangaikia. Sisi wana wa Mfalme, ibilisi una nguvu juu yetu. Ilikuwa alfajiri mapema, wanawake wakatoka wakielekea kule kaburini walipomzika Yesu. Ndipo wakapata jiwe lililolifunga lango la kaburi. Limeangaliwa kaburini wazi, Bwana ameshafufuka. Ilikuwa alfajiri mapema, wanawake wakatoka wakielekea kule kaburini walipomzika Yesu. Ndipo wakapata jiwe lililolifunga lango la kaburi. Limeondolewa kaburini wazi, Bwana ameshafufuka. Bwana Yesu amekwisha fufuka, kaburi lake li wazi. Habari njema ikawafikia wanafunzi wake Yesu. Nendeni Galilaya, Bwana ametangulia. Sasa tuko huru, hatuna deni, Bwana ameshinda mauti. Bwana Yesu amekwisha fufuka, kaburi lake li wazi. Habari njema ikawafikia wanafunzi wake Yesu. Nendeni Galilaya, Bwana ametangulia. Sasa tuko huru, hatuna deni, Bwana ameshinda mauti. Shangilieni wana wa Sayuni, deni lenu limelipwa. Tungekuwa wapi asingefufuka, tungepotea milele. Kufufuka kwake Yesu kumetupa ushindi dhidi ya dhambi. Tumeokolewa, tunajivunia ushindi wa Bwana Yesu. Shangilieni wana wa Sayuni, deni lenu limelipwa. Tungekuwa wapi asingefufuka, tungepotea Kuna mmoja nyumbani mwa Sauli aliuliza Mfalme Daudi, nimtendee mema ya Bwana kwa ajili ya Yonathani. Ndipo alipomjulisha mfalme, yupo mmoja kwa jina Mefibosheti, ni kilema tangu utotoni mwake, anaishi mbali Marekani. Kamlete hapa na kuhitaji. Kuna mmoja nyumbani mwa Sauli aliuliza Mfalme Daudi, nimtendee mema ya Bwana kwa ajili ya Yonathani. Ndipo alipomjulisha mfalme, yupo mmoja kwa jina Mefibosheti, ni kilema tangu utotoni mwake, anaishi mbali Marekani. Kamlete hapa na kuhitaji. Bwana anasema usijali ulivyo, ni wakati wa kuinuliwa, ni wakati wa kulala. Mfalme macho yake yamekuona, umekuwa kifungoni Lodebar, umetekwa nyara kwa nguvu za Shetani. Kwa jina la Yesu utakuwa huru, pata uponyaji kwake Yesu. Mapepo hayana nafasi juu yako. Bwana anasema usijali ulivyo, ni wakati wa kuinuliwa, ni wakati wa kulala. Mfalme macho yake yamekuona, umekuwa kifungoni Lodebar, umetekwa nyara kwa nguvu za Shetani. Kwa jina la Yesu utakuwa huru, pata uponyaji kwake Yesu. Mapepo hayana nafasi juu yako. Naye aliye kama Mungu, mwenye kukubali waliokataliwa. Naye aliye kama Mungu, awakumbuka waliosahauliwa. Ulizeni Mefibosheti, kina cha upendo wa Mungu Baba, uliyekoma huko Lodebar. Usikate tamaa, Bwana atakukumbuka kwa wakati. Naye aliye kama Mungu, mwenye kukubali waliokataliwa. Naye aliye kama Mungu, awakumbuka waliosahauliwa. Ulizeni Mefibosheti, kina cha upendo wa Mungu Baba, uliyekoma huko Lodebar. Usikate tamaa, Bwana atakukumbuka kwa wakati. Naye aliye kama Mungu, mwenye kukubali waliokataliwa. Naye aliye kama Mungu, awakumbuka waliosahauliwa. Ulizeni Mefibosheti, kina cha upendo wa Mungu Baba, uliyekoma huko Lodebar. Usikate tamaa, Bwana atakukumbuka kwa wakati.
afternoon and happy Sabbath. I would like to welcome you yet again to this wonderful Sabbath. Thank you, our viewers back at home, for joining us for yet another session that we are going to learn together. Today, we are going to talk about health, family and health. And our family today is Elder Makori's family, so he's going to introduce himself and maybe tell us why the other person is not here. Yeah, and then he'll pray for us, then we'll proceed. Elder Makori.
Happy Sabbath.
Happy day.
Happy Sabbath once again. I'm sorry that my family could not be here. She's working on a night shift, so she took a rest. She had wished that she could join us, but I'm hoping she's joining from wherever she is. Karibu sana, and before we start, let's bow for a word of prayer. Let's pray. Our gracious and heavenly Master, we want to give glory and honor thy name. We thank you for the gift of life that you've given us. We thank you for the provision that you've given us. We thank you for the protection against the pandemic of COVID-19 that you bestowed upon us, Almighty God. As we are going to begin this program, we welcome the presence that may you go before us to guide us through the entire program, and the information that we are going to gain, may it have a place in our life and uplift our life as we prepare for your second coming. We pray all this, believing and trusting in the name of Jesus, our mighty Savior.
Amen. Amen. As I said before, our topic today is on family and health. So be free to join us, be free to comment, be free to get involved as we continue to indulge more in this topic and share and learn together. So, karibu sana, Elder. Today we're talking about health. And just to start with, tell us something generally about health. I know there are different types of health and something like that. So tell us generally about health. What is health? Yes, and the importance of health in our daily life.
Thank you. Now, when we talk about health, it's quite a very wide perspective. But generally, when we define health, it's not just absence of disease or disorder, but when we talk about health, it's a general state where both physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, everything is working well. You cannot be physically fit, but emotionally, if you are challenged, then we say you are not healthy. You can be physically fit, emotionally fit, but if spiritually you are not complete, then you are not in a good state of health. And many times, the mistake we tend to make is look at our physical health and conclude that we are very healthy. There are people who are physically in good physical state when you look at them. But what goes on in their minds is really a challenge. Like the moment like now when we have COVID-19, there are so many people suffering from depression. There are so many people who are very anxious. There are so many people who are on continuous medication just to remain normal. So all those conditions tied together is when we stay in a state of good health.
So in short, health involves your physical well-being, your mental well-being, your emotional well-being, and your spiritual well-being.
Very true.
All that combined. I tend to think that we normally just look at the physical side of it, and this is interesting how we are learning today that all these things combined is what we can say that is a good state of health. Now, let us link to the physical health to start with. We try as much as possible to do exercises, and during this period of COVID-19, I've seen so many people on the internet trying to do exercise and remain fit. Now, are exercises part of being healthy, or part of one trying to be healthy, or something like that? what's the importance of one exercising, and is it advisable, and for how long can somebody exercise, and when is it necessary?
Thank you once again. I think exercise should form part of our normal lifestyle. For any human being, we need to understand the importance of exercise in our bodies. One of the big advantage or importance of exercise in our bodies is that exercise helps in circulating of blood to all the parts of the body. Normally, even when you're working in an office, there are times your mind gets tired. And for you to have that circulation and more energy, to reactivate your energy, you need to have a form of exercise. That is why even in primary schools, secondary schools, they are allowed time for PE, physical activity. Number two, all of us need exercise because you need to exercise your muscles. Muscles that are never exercised die out, a condition we known as atrophy. Anything that does not work naturally tends to die out. So we need to exercise on a regular basis so that the muscles, the tissues can continuously become stronger and they can sustain themselves. Another reason as to why we need exercise, that exercise strengthens our organs, our tissues. For example, when you exercise, you exert yourself, your respiratory system improves, your capacity to breathe well, you enhance your breathing capacity. Your circulatory system, your heart, improves in terms of circulation. Number four, exercise also boosts the immune system. Exercise, the immune system improves because of enhanced circulation, enhanced secretion of hormones and enzymes in the body. Then number five, another reason why we exercise. Most of the lifestyle diseases that we know of, like diabetes, hypertension, even some certain cancers, even allergic reactions, is because of our lifestyle that tends to be dormant or docile lifestyles. So if we need to keep diseases at bay, most of the lifestyle diseases, then we need to exercise. Number five, even your personality and your confidence. Everyone wants to look good. Even you feel good when you're physically fit. And you cannot do that if you are not exercising. So it enhances your personality. It enhances how other people perceive you. And generally, it is a well-being to an individual to do an exercise. Now, how frequent to exercise and which exercise to undertake depends first on what is your age, two, what is your aim. Most of us think that exercise may be going to a gym and lifting weights. Exercise is not simply going to the gym. Exercise can involve even deciding, I'm not taking a matatu, I'm walking from here to maybe lights. That is a form of exercise. Others can choose to go for jogging, others can choose to go for swimming, cycling. Even doing home jogs is a form of exercise. So you don't need to go to a gym for you to exercise.
So look at our way of life these days. I have a car. From my house, I get into my car. I go to work. I park my car outside my office. I get into my working station. I sit the whole day and serve my customers. In the evening again, I get into my car. I go back home tired, of course, and I must rest. So is there need for me to exercise? Because already I've been involving my mind at work. When I get home, I am exhausted and tired. Please talk about this particular set of people whose daily lives are affected maybe by their jobs and something like that.
Thank you. Now, emotional tiredness is not similar like physical tiredness. And exercising your mind does not mean that you exercise entirely your body. A good exercise, you should be able to involve all parts of the body. Now, what we see, even here in Kenya, when you look at African families, that normally have all things, you have a car, you have everything, who tend to have a lifestyle that is not active. Even when you go to schools that are more affluent, what we are seeing many children who are overweight. Means they are spending more time not exercising, maybe they are spending more time simply eating, watching TV, playing games, and there is no physical activity. Working in an office does not replace the need for you to have a physical exercise. You should have in your program between 20 to 30 minutes in a day of a physical activity that you engage. It should form part of your lifestyle. Maybe when you wake up, you have your 30 minutes that you are doing the physical exercise. Or at the end of the day, you have time to do an exercise. So working in an office is not a replacement for a physical activity. It is a must if you need to remain healthy. They say, if you want to walk when you are in your 80s and 90s, keep running when you are in 30s, 40s, and 50s. But if you want to crawl when you are in 70s and 80s, lead the lifestyle that most of us are leading today.
Wow. So exercises are a very important part in our lives. Now, our mental health. How do we exercise mentally? Because we involve ourselves so much, and maybe again the way you say you are tired mentally. So does it help to do the physical exercise for the mental health, or how do we exercise mentally so that we rest emotionally or mentally?
Thank you. You can also exercise mentally. One of the things that we recommend, that any activity is tiring. Your minds get tired. Whether you are working on a computer, you are reading, the minds get tired. So when the minds get tired, you need to engage in a different activity. For example, if you have a piano in the house, it's more of a mental activity than a physical activity, coordinating the key. You can engage in a different activity than maybe the one that you are doing. And even children, we can exercise their mental ability by giving them various routines, different routines that they should engage in. So one activity, you should not only engage in just one activity, but you can engage in different activities. And you need to know when your mind is tired, when you cannot take anymore, you need to take a break and then maybe come back to the activity. 2, you need to know, like, when at times your mind is tired, you are going into depression, you are going into anxiety. Because the mind coordinates with the body to tell you, I'm now tired of this. So you should be aware when your mind is tired, when you need to change the activity that you're engaging in.
Allow me to ask, and as we're going to take our first break after this question and invite Ziwani Choir once again. Depression. You have talked about depression, and I remember when you were starting, you were talking about people have been depressed, especially during this time of COVID-19. Okay? How do you really know that you are in depression? What is depression per se?
Thank you. The answer may not be very straightforward that you can tell a person who is in depression, but you can tell from the signs and symptoms. One of the things that you will know that you are depressed, for example, there are activities that you used to like. Maybe like you used to like singing in a choir. If one day you woke up and found that you have no appetite to sing in the choir, if there is no another underlying maybe physical illnesses, most likely you are in depression. Number 2, when you have a lot of fear about something, whether known or unknown, is a sign of depression. When you withdraw, maybe from people, from family, you want just to stay alone. It is not your normal to stay alone, but you want to be alone with your own thoughts, is a sign of depression. Some people were usually very active or very talkative. Apparently, you find that they have become so reserved, they are not engaging. It is a sign of depression. When you start using substances, maybe to treat your boredom, everything you do seems to be boring to you. And maybe now you need to say, I need to be taking tea, I need to be taking time from time to time for me to be alert. It is a sign of depression.
So our viewers back at home, today we are talking about family and health. And with us today, our guest is Elder Dr. Makori. So feel free to ask questions regarding the same. We have talked about health as being physically healthy, our physical well-being, our mental health well-being, our emotional well-being, and our spiritual well-being. So engage us on our platform, feel free, and karibuni sana. So we welcome Ziwani Choir as we go for our break. Be blessed and see you after the break. Ziwani Choir. God bless you. Thank you, our viewers back at home, for joining us. And those who are just joining us, we are talking about family and health. And with us today is Elder Makori. So feel free to comment and ask any question that you have pertaining the same. We are going to another question. Medicine. Sometimes, pale nyumbani at home you have a headache, you're feeling dizzy, you just run over the counter and take medication, and that is it. You take one or two, and when you feel a little bit better, you leave it at that. Or even the prescribed medicine. You are given medicine at the hospital, you take one or two, after 2 days or a day you're feeling okay, you leave it at that. Tell us about first over-the-counter medication and then the prescribed medicine. Is there a need to finish it, or is there an effect when you just leave it at, I am now feeling okay, I think I am feeling okay, and then now you leave the medication at that? Yes, Elder.
Thank you, Esther. That is my area. Let me start with over-the-counter medications. When we talk about over-the-counter medications, these are medications that you do not necessarily need a prescription for you to buy the medication. You can get them from a supermarket, you can get them even from the kiosk next to your shop, or you can get them from a chemist. Such medications are common medication like for pain, relieving medication, for flu and cold medications, for allergy medications, certain supplements. Now, majority of the people tend to have this notion that over-the-counter medication, or what we call OTC medications, have no adverse events or side effects. Although they are relatively safe, no medicine is absolutely safe. We talk about absolute safety or relative safety of the medication. Now, I can give you an example of last week. We had a young man of 25 who had paracetamol poisoning being brought in at our accident and emergency unit. He took 10 tablets of paracetamol within 2 hours. So what happened? He developed an inflammation in the liver. The eyes changed, they became yellow, indicating that there is damage in the liver. He is still admitted in the hospital for management, for detoxification, because he took an overdose of a very safe drug we know as paracetamol. Number two, over-the-counter drugs have a tendency of being abused. Most people tend to know their illnesses. Instead of doing a proper diagnosis, a person tells you, I know my malaria, so you give me a malaria medication, I don't require any test, just give me antimalarial, I know how my malaria behaves. He takes antimalarial drugs, but not because they are suffering from malaria, but because they have a sign similar to that maybe last time when they had malaria they want antimalarial drugs. Certain conditions actually do not require any treatment. For example, most of the upper respiratory tract infections, like flu and cold, these are viral infections. You see most people using antibiotics. Antibiotics have no role in treating common cold, flu. These are viral infections. Actually taking a rest, and if you are sneezing, anti-allergy drugs can work. You don't need to take strong antibiotics. Another problem with over-the-counter medication is addiction. We have people who believe for every illness there is a pill to be taken. For any condition they have, they depend on medication. There are people who cannot even sleep without taking medication. They form an habit Even for small pain, they have to take medication for them to get relieved. Number 5, most of these over-the-counter medications have interactions with other medication, maybe prescribed medication or medication, herbal medications. And most of the time, people do not disclose that I'm maybe using antihypertensive medication, I'm using diabetic medication, which is the appropriate medication for me to use for pain. So because of this interaction, you may find maybe we do not achieve the desired outcomes, or there is overlapping toxicities among the drugs patients are using. We have patients who are using up to 15 drugs. I have a patient who is using 18 drugs in a day. Every day they are taking 18 different drugs. This patient can be sick from, maybe they can have pain, they need other medication. So it's very important that when you are on any medication, to have an expert review all the medication that you are using, so that they can be able to do what is known as drug reconciliation. They advise you on the most appropriate medication to use, given your condition and given the medication that you are using. You ask a question of, when we treat ourselves, maybe you decide, you had a prescription, you were told maybe to take for 1 month, and I can say this especially for infections, maybe where you're advised to take for 7 days or 5 days. You take, but the time is the 3rd day, you are feeling better.
Okay.
Then you decide to stop taking the medication. It is not recommended. The reason why, if you do not subject the microorganism to sufficient duration of treatment, the residual microorganisms tend to develop resistance over time. So that next time you have a same infection and you are using the same medication, it is not responding the way it's supposed to be. For chronic conditions, such as diabetes, hypertension, you should not decide to stop the medication without a review by the prescriber. There are people who say, I know my diabetes. I know when my sugar levels are high, that is when they only take the medication. It is very dangerous to decide when to take the medication and when not to take the medication because of poor outcomes in terms of management.
That is interesting. What do you think back at home? Over-the-counter medicine, this is what we do. We are given prescriptions and we don't finish our medicine because we feel okay. And Dr. Makori has told us and taught us the effects of the same. Now, us coming closer home, there's a question that was ringing my mind and I've just forgotten, but it will come. Us coming back at home now, about the foods we eat, the food we eat, especially animal products. Before we go to that, I remembered the question now. Is this correct? This is a notion that I had somewhere, that our body is able to, they say, rejuvenate or heal itself when something happens to it. Is that true, and how does that work? And therefore, is there an importance of us having medication? Are the white cells enough to deal with body disorder or body, if there is any discomfort or any illness in our body?
The answer is yes, and at the same time, no. There are situations that you need drugs, and there are situations that you do not need medications.
Because
Now,
that there are people who normally don't take medication at all. They say they can't go to the hospital, they don't take medicine, they'll just be okay, or something like that.
we need to separate myths and facts. There are even religions that are teaching that people should not even take their children for immunizations, or when you're sick, they should only pray for you and you get well. You know, one thing God has done that is giving us knowledge. And this knowledge is supposed to assist us when we have challenges. Most of the treatment are based on evidence. It's not just a trial and error. Depends on how you are assessed. A doctor may decide that you need medication or you do not need medication. So it should not be a personal decision that I need medication or I do not need medication. Remember, even when we believe, God can use other people to bring healing to you. Not necessarily that you want God to work the way you want, that if I pray, that is enough for me. God has his own way of making things work the way he wants, or to achieve what he wants to achieve. So there are times we need medications, there are times we do not need medication. Now we have two extremes. We have clients, every time they go to an hospital or they visit their physician, they will demand for drugs, even when it's not necessary. And because treatment at times is psychological, we have to give you even a supplement to satisfy your mind that actually I've received some form of treatment. Because so there's no need for medication, but you're insisting you need some form of medication. That is also a form of treatment. At times they are given what is known as a placebo. It's a drug without an active ingredient. It's just like eating ugali, formulated in form of a tablet. So when you swallow, you feel you're getting better. But it has no medication at all. So that is psychological treatment. There are certain people you have to treat that way, because they believe if I take medication I'll get better.
Mitishamba. There are those people who use drugs from the natural drugs that we say. What about them?
If we look at the history of medication, initially before the advancement of science and chemistry, most drugs were obtained from natural sources, plant sources, mineral sources, marine sources. Even some of the drugs we currently use are from natural sources. The only challenge we have with Apple medication is to determine the right doses first, the right source of the product. We have people going around with akibuyu, like Masais. For every condition, that concoction is like a magic drug. It treats everything. Ukimwambia ni tumbo, hiyo ni dawa ya tumbo. Ukimwambia ni kichwa, ni dawa ya kichwa. In medicine, there is nothing magical that can treat anything and everything. Every drug has its own way how it works. So some of them actually exaggerate. It becomes a business than a treatment or a service they are giving to community. You should be very careful, especially these people who go around marketing Apple medication. And they will tell you that my drug does not have side effect because it's from natural sources. That is a myth. If a drug does not have side effects, then it does not have pharmacological effect. Every drug has a side effect. We only deal with, there are those with relative safety profile, there are those very toxic. I can give you an example. A drug like quinine. How many took chloroquine? Chloroquine is one of the drugs that have very bad side effects, obtained from natural sources. Quinine itself, very bitter, very severe side effects, obtained from where? A plant. So there's no drug without side effects. If it's active, it must have side effects.
We are going to take our break again after this question. Now back closer home now, about the food we eat. Tell us how about food now, and especially animal products as a source of protein. Is it advisable to take animal products as a source of protein?
Protein from animal sources. I want to start from afar.
Yes.
What are proteins? Why do we need proteins? Now, proteins are the building blocks of our bodies. Our body is basically made up of proteins. Proteins are the building blocks. Our tissues, our organs are made up of proteins. When there's tissue degeneration, repair of the tissues requires proteins. Our enzymes in the body, our hormones in the body, they are protein in nature. And we have two sources of proteins. first, before I go to the sources of proteins, now a human body requires a total of 20 amino acids. The building blocks of proteins are known as amino acids. We require 20 amino acids. Now, out of these 20, 11 are synthesized in the body. They are known as non-essential amino acids. The other 9 must be obtained either from animal sources or plant sources. Now, these two sources of proteins, animal and plant proteins, which one to go for, and why should we go for what we're supposed to go for? Now, animal proteins are actually high protein sources, very high protein sources, and they contain all the 9 amino acids that we need at very high concentration. On the other hand, plants also contain these proteins, but at lower concentrations or at lower amounts. There are plants that contain all the 9 amino acids, while others may contain maybe 6 or 7, so you need to eat a variety of plants for you to achieve the desired amino acid required on a daily basis. Now, when you look at animal proteins, what is the major problem or concerns that we have with animal proteins? One of the concerns is that animal proteins normally cause constipation, especially when taken in large amounts. Digestion of animal proteins is very slow. They tend to stay in the digestive system for a very long time. Because of that, it will cause constipation, it will cause flatulence in the system. Number 2, animal proteins tend to have higher amounts of saturated fats, or the bad fats. These fats have an effect in our cardiovascular system, in our blood vessels. They have an effect on our eyes. Most of the people who use this protein for a very long time, especially when they approach 60s, 70s, they end up being blind because of the damage of the small blood vessels in our eyes. Number 3, people who feed on high protein diet, especially from animals, their breath and their body odor changes because of this excess proteins. The body tends to convert those proteins into carbohydrates. They release a chemical that is known as ketone bodies. And these ketone bodies have a smell of acetone. So if you came across someone who had a very funny smell, maybe they're feeding on too much proteins. The number 4, these proteins also overwork the digestive system and the kidney in terms of elimination from the liver to the kidney. They tend to be overworked. They end up being damaged in the long run. Number 5, animal proteins tend to cause a loss of calcium from the body. And calcium is one of the key ingredients we need for our bones. So you end up weakening the bones. They become weaker because you do not have enough calcium in the body. So people will be susceptible to more of conditions such as arthritis, osteoarthritis, especially when you approach the elderly or when you approach your 60s and 70s. Then lastly, animal source of proteins have a lot of uric acid. And this uric acid accumulates in the joints. People who eat a lot of meat, after some time, they develop arthritis or osteoarthritis again. And lastly, in terms of our GI system, because these animal sources do not have, there's a content that is known as fiber that we normally obtain from vegetables or from plant sources that helps in digestion. And plant sources also have chemicals that are known as phytochemicals that you cannot obtain from the animal sources. Now, whether to go for plant protein or animal protein, again, it goes to the amount that we take. Usually, it is recommended that for one sitting, the protein that you require, if you are taking meat, you are supposed to eat only 3 pieces, equivalent of your thumbnail. How many of us take just 3 pieces? The one you used to be served in high school was more than enough. Some of us sit and eat a full kg of meat, as if you are lion. Okay? And that is where we develop most of these problems. The amount that we take is too much for the body to deal with. So if you are able to regulate the amount you take, animal proteins are good. But equally, you can survive with plant proteins. Is enough, they provide enough. So the choice depends on where you live. You know, there are people who live where there are no vegetables. Yeah? So you have to survive on animal proteins. The only thing you need to do is regulate. If you take milk, you don't need to take meat. Milk provides enough of the amino acids. If you take an egg, you don't need to take meat. Egg provides enough amino acids that you require.
Wise advice there. Ziwani Choir on stage. So we have learned the importance and the difference between animal protein and the vegetables that also, and the plant proteins, yes. And Daktari has said that if there is need for you to take animal protein, then stretch out your thumb at home. 3 pieces of that is what you are supposed to take as animal protein. So on stage is Ziwani Choir. They will give us an item, after which we will be back to conclude. Feel free to ask questions. I will be sharing your comments after this so that we learn together. Karibuni Ziwani Choir.
zaidi ya yote ninao uzima wa milele juu mbinguni. Wakati dunia itakapoisha na mambo yake yakiisha, nitapaa na Mwokozi wangu nikarithi nchi mpya. Ninapoona hayo nikagundua ya dunia ni ubatili. Natembea nikitahasa, nimemtegemea Yesu daima. Yeye ndiye mwamba wenye usalama, ndivyo mimi niko salama. Hivyo kamwe sitaogopa chochote, hivyo chini ya mwamba natembea nikitahasa, nimemtegemea Yesu daima. Yeye ndiye mwamba wenye usalama, hivyo mimi niko salama. Hivyo kamwe sitaogopa chochote, hivyo chini ya mwamba Yesu.
Welcome back. Thank you so much, Ziwani Choir. And thank you, our viewers, for watching us. There's a question for you, Dr. Makodi. And Joshua is asking, do I still need physical exercise if my daily routine is more on field work? Do I still need physical exercise if my daily routine is on field work?
Thank you for that question. Now, whether you need a physical exercise depends on how much work you do. You need to measure. Maybe if you're talking about walking, what distance do you cover in a day? If it's sufficient to be able to exercise all parts of your body, then it's not necessary again to engage in another exercise. For example, people engage, maybe you're working in a farm. You are a farm laborer. You don't need to engage in another exercise. Yeah? The work that you do in a given day is sufficient. It serves as your exercise. So it depends on the amount of work that you do.
Okay. I believe that answers you, Joshua, really, and thank you so much for joining us. Our last question for today. Are there illnesses that can't affect young people? I remember when COVID-19 was starting, there were rumors that this disease cannot affect young people. So are there diseases that cannot affect young people, as it was saying for COVID, and which are they, if so?
Thank you, Esther, for that question. And I think this is one area where we've misunderstood this particular disease, and I'm going to clarify. But either, when you say young people, I don't know which age group you're talking about, but in terms of disease management, we categorize the people we call infants, or people below 5 years. Then there's a group in between from 5 years to around 20 years. Then between 20 to around 49 years. Then another age set that is 50 and above. For us to be able to understand the dynamics, we need to understand how our system changes over time. What happens, so that we know whether you are able to contract a particular disease or you are not. When you talk about the very young children, the infants, and children up to the age of 5 years, at this age of development, we know that their organs, their systems are not fully developed. Some enzymes in the bodies are not fully developed. There are quite a number of diseases we see, which are very particular for this age group, or that are more in this particular age group. One of them is disease like pneumonia. Because their immunity has not fully developed, most of these children, when they suffer from pneumonia, it becomes a very severe pneumonia. Malaria. Most of the severe malarias are in children below 5 years. Most of the diarrheal diseases are in children below 5 years. Now, when we move upwards, the trend a bit changes. Their immunity is now becoming more competent. They're able to fight most of the infection. So children above 5, 10, going to adults above 30 to 49, their pattern of disease almost remains the same. But when you move to the age of 50, 60 and above, the trend changes. What do we see in these people? Mostly, we see lifestyle diseases. Why? At this age, by the time one is 60, the organs start degenerating. There's organ degeneration. We've been overexposed to the environment. They contribute to some of the conditions that we have at that particular age. So what condition do we see most in this age group? We see cardiovascular diseases most, hypertension, diseases such as diabetes, cancers, asthma, and many other chronic ailments. To say that, especially we are asking for this young age group, which was saying that COVID-19 is not for the young people. It is only that most young people do not develop very severe signs and symptoms. Reason being, the immune system is good. We call it is competent. When you move to your 60, because already you have these other comorbidities like diabetes, you have like hypertension, your immunity status starts decreasing. So that when you develop another disease, it becomes much more severe than a person who is more immunocompetent. COVID-19 can affect anyone. We've seen children from 2 years. We've seen children from 1 year. We've seen cases of 15 years, 20 years, even 8 years. So it does not discriminate between different age groups. And again, when we talk about disease pattern, we look at who is more likely to be exposed. If it's a young person and maybe you don't move a lot, adults are likely to go out a lot than the young people. So it means the interaction is likely to be more in adults than the young people. In that sense, then the transmission of this COVID is likely to be more in adults than in children. Again, when we look at even the gender between male and female who are likely, or which more cases are we seeing? We are seeing many cases of males. What would be the reason? It's because males tend to be out more than females. Again, when we talk about illnesses, there are two I can classify to two. There's what we call diseases and disorders. Diseases are the ones that are caused by microorganisms. Disorders are the ones caused because of lifestyle or because of age. Many young people we see mostly having infections. In elderly, we see more disorders, or what is known as lifestyle diseases. So there's no particular disease that it is more for adults than for males, unless it is more to do with the lifestyle. But generally, we all have almost the same risk of contracting the disease. But in terms of developing very severe signs and symptoms, depends on the state of our immune system.
In our lives today, compared to when I was still young, truth be told is that these lifestyle disorders were known to be for the old people, okay? But now, even the young, or rather the middle age, I would say, have this kind of diseases. What is the cause and maybe what is the take-home that they can take, or something we need to change on as now the younger generation headed towards that direction.
Thank you, Esther. There are 2 or 3 things that are very key, especially for these disorders. One, which is key, is lifestyle. 2, and I go a bit into detail. 2 is what we are feeding on. And 3 is the environmental exposures that we get ourselves into. Our lifestyle. Let me begin with our lifestyle. If you look at most young people these days, those days, my days, let me talk about my days. We used to be forced to come from outside to the house, to come even take food, because we are praying most of the time. These days, we are forcing children actually to go outside, to have some time for physical activity. They do not want to strain themselves. And you know, they are living in a time, everything is much more simplified. It is being done for them. As we used to do all the jobs during our time, we never used to have a maid working for us. If it's going to fetch water, it is us who could go fetch water. This day, send your daughter or your son to even just get you water from the tap. They will not go. They are seated watching TV. Number 2, what we are feeding on. We are feeding our children mostly on processed foods, which tend to have high content of fats, high content of proteins. You walk to our fridges these days, because we are very busy, we no longer take fresh food. We are taking more of processed foods. So what does it mean? That we are taking in more and more chemicals. We are exposing our bodies to more and more chemicals that we are not able to remove from our bodies. Then our environments have become polluted. That is for sure. If you look at the sources of most of our foods, in the last few years, we banned even maize with mercury. We banned vegetables that are grown using sewage. What do you expect when you feed on vegetables that are grown using sewage? That is what you are feeding on. What do you expect? You are buying meat from a supermarket that has been raised with a lot of chemicals. What do you expect your body to do? It means our organs are degenerating at a much faster rate than they used to be maybe in 50 or 20 years ago. So what we are exposing to ourselves, we're being exposed to, what we are feeding on, our lifestyle, is contributing to what we are seeing these days.
So we have learned a lot today. One, we should check on our lifestyle. Exercise is important, and this has come very clearly throughout our discussion. Also, food. Check on the food that we eat. Avoid processed food. Now, as we conclude, Elder, masks. The masks that we put on these days. One, what is the age that is appropriate? Because some people say that for children, it is not advisable for them to put on masks. Is this true? And if so, what age is appropriate for the children to put on the mask? Number 2, there are 2 sides of the mask. Do they have a meaning that when you wear them on the other side or on the blue side, those that are colored, do they have a meaning? And number 3, what is the importance of these masks? Because I see many people wearing the masks. Some are dirty, some put them as chin cover, some of them will put it up here. So what are the importance of these masks? And are they different, or do they all serve the same purpose? Those are so many questions, I know, but maybe we'll break it bit by bit as we conclude.
I'll try my best to respond to that question.
Sure.
Let's begin with age appropriate for wearing a mask. Generally, a mask is not recommended at all for children below 2 years because they are not able to breathe properly. Then between 2 to 5, also, it is not recommended to wear for a prolonged period of time because they are not able to maintain the mask. Maybe when you are traveling for a short time, you can cover them, but as soon as you arrive in a safe place, they should not be on a mask. Number 3, how long should we wear a mask? Now, it depends what you are doing. Like as we are working in an hospital setting, you should not wear a mask for more than 3 hours. Every 3 hours, you should change your mask. Now, again, it also depends on the climate. When it starts getting hotter in Mombasa, you cannot wear a mask for even more than 1 hour or 2 hours continuously, the same mask. And this kind of mask, they are known as disposable masks. They are not a reusable mask. Once you wear, you should remove and dispose. The others who have come with an innovative technique because you want to save a few coins. So what you can do, you can have several masks like 5. Once you wear one, maybe after 3 hours you change, you can keep it in an envelope or a Ziploc bag for the use on a later date. You can feel that the mask is not comfortable to wear. When you wait for a long time, you can feel the smell, this change of smell. Once you get that there's change in smell of that mask, you are supposed to dispose. Physically, if you see your mask is soiled, you should also discard the mask. The mask is not supposed to be worn on the chin. It beats the logic that we are talking and you are wearing a mask on your chin. If you are talking, completely remove the mask, put it aside, finish whatever you are doing and put it back. And it does not make meaning you are wearing a mask and you are touching the mask on this end. If there were any droplets, means the next time maybe you are touching your eye, you are scratching your nose, those droplets are going to gain entry. So as much as possible, avoid touching around the front part of the mask. But you can adjust at the top at the white line where they have aluminium metal. That area you can for purpose of adjusting. Now, which mask is appropriate? Is it the kitambaa that we are wearing? Is it the surgical mask? Because we are in a resource-constrained setting, if you have to use the cotton material, then it should be in 3 layers. At least 3 layers, not a single layer. And then have several of them that you can change on a regular basis. You can clean. Others have come with an innovative way. If it is in 2 layers, in between this serviette we use, you can put a serviette. What are we trying to do? We're trying to prevent as much as possible any microorganism passing through the pores of the material that we are using. So because we're in a resource-constrained setting, we cannot demand that everyone wears a surgical mask. And also, depends on the risk that you expose yourself. Like us who work in the front line, we not only wear the surgical mask, but there's what is known as the N95. That is the highest form of protection that we can use in this COVID era. So it depends on the risk that you are exposed to, where you are working, who you are interacting with, how many people you're interacting with. And is it safe, like when you are sitting like this, maybe to wear a mask? According to the new guidelines, when we reopen churches, it's mandatory that during the period of worship, you should be in your mask. See what is happening right now? You are touching those areas. Then at the end of the day, maybe you are scratching yourself, your nose, maybe kitu imekushika kwa mdomo, you are touching. What happens? It will finally gain entry into your system. So the mask, one thing it does, it makes you avoid touching your eyes, your nose, and your mouth. Those are the entry points for the COVID-19. And there are those who wear masks, maybe cover their mouth, leave the nose out. That is an appropriate usage of the mask. It should cover completely your nose, it only leaves the eyes to see.
That was one.
Okay. Yes. Unless I've forgotten something that you need to, or decide which one to wear out, which one to wear inside. There are so many schools of thought. There are those when you want to protect the other person. For example, if a patient comes who is TB, we know is positive for TB, we don't want him to transmit to the caregiver, then we recommend that the white part be outside and the blue part be inside. But it's more so to do with identification than protection. You wear it either side, you receive the same protection because it is 3 layers. So you need not to worry. But if you walk like he's wearing and it's white outside, we may think you are sick, so we may take you for quarantine.
Okay. Now, allow me to ask this question. Yeah? When in the inception now of COVID, there was a lot of care that we were so, everyone was taking care of themselves, everyone was following the instructions, but as time has gone and right now things, I can say, are back to normal. Yeah? Is there any risk on that, or should we start celebrating that the virus is going away?
Okay. Like any other new thing, when something is very new, we have no enough information. There's a lot of fear, there's a lot of means, there's a lot of information that goes around. But as people get more information, get more informed, I think we are getting used to. Even these days, I don't think we are rushing to the TV to see what are the number of the new cases. What is happening now? There are few among us who still do not believe that there is COVID. They still believe maybe the government wants to get money from external funders for their projects. And it's a good number, especially in Mombasa, we're not taking adequate precautions because they're not taking the advice from government very seriously. Number two, with COVID-19, you may find even some of us have been exposed, but we never develop signs and symptoms. We've developed a kind of immunity. Going forward, the only way we are going to get back to normal is when majority of us get exposed, develop immunity against COVID-19. It will come with its own consequences. Like Tanzania, what they have done, they have decided let everyone be exposed. Of course, a few will have to die, but majority will have to survive. And once you survive, it means you will develop immunity against the disease. Unless and until we have a vaccine for COVID-19, let's take adequate precautions. Because you never know, like we are sitting, who is infected, who is a carrier for COVID-19. So let's always observe the precautions that have been given. It's true, COVID-19 is with us. It is not ending tomorrow. It is not ending in September. It is going to stay with us for a very long time. Maybe it will become normal like HIV. People are no longer talking about HIV. We are living with HIV as any other normal disease. Maybe that is where we are headed to.
Far from COVID, and this will be our last question today. as women, as ladies, we love beauty. And bleaching has become more of an economic thing. It has become, we want to look beautiful, we want to, other people were being asked why really they bleach, and they say to boost their self-confidence. Are there effects for bleaching? And is bleaching one of the causes for cancer?
It's a good question, especially for young people. But I want to throw the same question back to the audience. What is beauty? Is beauty a change of skin color? Is beauty, or is being brown or white, as you may put it, beauty in itself? I do not know why people go for preaching, whether they understand how our body system works, how our skin works. Maybe I go back a bit, that skin color, the type of skin color first depends on your genes, your genetic inheritance from your parents. Number two, it will depend on the environment where you are living. I can give an example of what an environment can do. If Esther today went to Europe or went to US for 2 years, will she come back with the same skin color? It will turn, it will change, it will become light. Not because she has used chemical, but because of the environment. Our skin color, the dark skin color, is because you have more melanin on your skin. And melanin is a protective pigment in our skin. And why blacks have more melanin than anyone else is because in Africa, where we live, apparently we are exposed to higher UV radiations. They protect you against the UV radiations. So what happens when you bleach the color? You are suppressing the pigment, melanin. So when you are exposed to these UV radiations, what happens? There is abnormal or abnormality in the skin. And one of the things that we see is that most of the people who prick their skins end up with skin cancers in the long run. Number two, most of the chemicals we use for bleaching contains components such as mercury. They contain another chemical known as hydroxyquinone. They contain another chemical known as steroids. And when you start using steroids on your body, you suppress your immune system. You become more susceptible to diseases, to skin diseases caused by bacteria, caused by fungus, and caused by viruses. In some people who've done bleaching, what you see, the skin never is uniform throughout. Some places is so dark, other places is light in color. You kill some melanin cells while others are not suppressed completely. So because of this ununiform skin tone, when you are walking outside, unaona mtu hapa, mikono they are so brown, but when you look at the other parts of the body, you are wondering, is this a leopard, a zebra, ama what is this? We are doing this because we do not understand the long-term consequences. Some of these chemicals even affect the kidney and the liver in the long run. Most of people have done bleaching. And one other thing maybe you didn't mention is tattoos, which will come in a little later. They have an effect on our skin. What you need for your skin is not a bleaching agent, is to identify a cream, a lotion that goes with your skin. If your skin is so oily, you know what kind of lotion you are going to use. If you have a dry skin, you need to identify which kind of lotion that you require. Sufficient moisturized skin is the best skin. Not a skin that has been changed, it is color.
wise words there. I think we have learned a lot. We have come to the end of our discussion today on health. And kindly, Elder, give us a parting shot. Something you have to say from any topic or whatever we have talked about. Parting shots.
Okay. Thank you, Esther, for hosting me. Mine is just to emphasize on overall health. Your health is your wealth. When you arrive at the 4th floor and 5th floor, I know what you mean by 4th floor and 5th floor, your 40s and 50s. You need to start worrying more about your health than you are worried about your wealth and your job. Because this is one thing that someone cannot carry for you. Someone cannot live for you. At all means, you must modify, or we must modify our lifestyle so that we have our bodies, not only the physical bodies, but take care of our emotional needs, take care of our mental needs, and take care of our spiritual needs. The unfortunate thing, if we lose our health, you are not likely to recover later on in life. What you do now will determine what will happen in the future. Take care of your health now, it will take care of you in your later years. Thank you so much, Esther, for organizing the forum. I look forward for another forum, maybe in the near future. Asante sana.
It is true that this topic is so wide and we cannot say that we have exhausted enough of it. Surely we will look for yet another forum to talk more about health and diseases and our lifestyle so that we learn each and every day. Thank you so much, my viewers back at home, for joining us today in a conversation that was very interesting. We appreciate your comments so much. God bless you all, and be sure again to join us again, same time, same place next Sabbath. Thank you so much, Elder Makori. We surely missed Mrs. Makori. Her seat was even here, but sure enough, we appreciate her, and we appreciate the fact that she is also doing something in the front line, and pass our regards to her. You have represented her very well. Thank you so much. Next, we are going to have Ziwani Choir with a series of songs. Do not go away, stay tuned, and God bless you all. Till next time, I have been your host, Esther Nyako. Be blessed.
Mpaka mipango yake, kauli ya mwisho kutoka kwa Mungu. Mbele zake Mungu wataonekana wote sawa. Mkabidhi Mungu mipango yako yote uyawazayo. Utafanikiwa vizuri ukiongozwa na Mungu. Binadamu mpaka mipango yake, kauli ya mwisho kutoka kwa Mungu. Mbele zake Mungu wataonekana wote sawa. Mkabidhi Mungu mipango Mungu aliye mbinguni hufanya tujiepushe na maovu. Alishusha adui kuwa marafiki. Ni bora kuwa na mali kidogo kuliko udhalimu. Mipango yote hufanikiwa ukiongozwa naye. Kwa kumcha Mungu aliye mbinguni hufanya tujiepushe na maovu. Alishusha adui kuwa marafiki. Ni bora kuwa na mali kidogo kuliko udhalimu. Mipango yote hufanikiwa ukiongozwa naye. Ila kiburi ni chukizo kwake Mungu. Hakika mtu kama huyo hapendezewi Mungu. Mtu huondolewa dhambi kwa kuwa mtii. Ila kiburi ni chukizo kwake Mungu. Hakika mtu kama huyo hapendezewi Mungu. Mtu huondolewa dhambi kwa kuwa mtii. Ila kiburi ni chukizo kwake Mungu. Hakika mtu kama huyo hapendezewi Mungu. Mtu huondolewa dhambi kwa kuwa ingekuwa neema na asingefufuka, waja wake wangeikia aibu. Na kama vile jua lisingetimia, nyuso zetu sisi tungeziweka wapi? Ingekuwa neema na asingefufuka, waja wake tungeingia aibu. Na kama vile jua lisingetimia, nyuso zetu sisi tungeziweka wapi? Galilaya wanasema Yesu yu hai. Wasema ni mshindi kaburini, wanasema amefufuka. Wanafunzi wazigusa alama, furahini Mwokozi kafufuka. Furahini Mwokozi kafufuka. Galilaya wanasema Yesu yu hai. Yerusalemu wasema ni mshindi kaburini, wanasema amefufuka. Wanafunzi wazigusa alama, furahini Mwokozi kafufuka. Furahini Mwokozi kafufuka. Tunatembea kama wameletwa ringa, kwa sababu Bwana ameshinda mauti. Dunia yote leo inashangilia, kwa sababu Bwana ameshinda mauti. Tunatembea kama wameletwa ringa, kwa sababu Bwana ameshinda mauti. Dunia yote leo inashangilia, kwa sababu Bwana ameshinda mauti. Galilaya wanasema Yesu yu hai. Yerusalemu wasema ni mshindi kaburini, wanasema amefufuka. Wanafunzi wazigusa alama, furahini Mwokozi kafufuka. Kama ndugu ukimwona mtu amekosea, mtafuteni kwa upole. Msijidharau, msijaribiwe tangazo.
Thank you, Ziwani Church Choir. God bless you so much. We have come to the end of our Sabbath services here in church, and I want to thank you so much for joining us from back at home, from morning until this particular time. God bless you so much. Be sure to join us again this coming week, and may God be with you as we start and yet another week. May God bless you in all that you do. May God expand your territory, and may God meet you and fulfill your heart desires in Jesus' name. I will pray as we conclude. We are praying. Father, in the mighty name of Jesus, Lord, I want to thank you for yet another evening that you have granted unto us. When we started these services in the morning, we asked you, Lord, that you be with us and guide us and see your mercies, and you are gracious, because this far we can confirm that you are Ebenezer, because you have been with us all through the programs and all through the services of the day. Thank you, God, for our listeners back at home. Thank you, God, because you've enabled them to keep your Sabbath holy even amidst the situation that is here with us. I want to thank you, my God, and I want to ask you, God, to continue to cover us with your blessings, and you continue to guide us in your path, my Father. Many are at home, my God, who are sick. Many are suffering. Many are looking for jobs. Many are seeking your face day and night. My Father and my Lord, may you reveal yourself unto them, my Father, at your own time, my God. And may they always continue to praise you and glorify your name. Dear God, we have lost one of us. Mama Winnie Mandy has left us, but we continue to thank you, even for the period that we were together with her. We continue to ask you, my God, that you may continue to comfort us and comfort the family and hold us together, and let us learn, my God, and teach us always to count our days, my Father, and may you continue to be with us and guide us as a family of Ziwani. I want to thank you, and I want to glorify you for each and everyone, even for those who sacrifice to come and make these programs possible, my Father. I want to pray that you may be with them and guide them, my Father. I thank you and I glorify you for each and everything. This evening, as we disperse, as we continue with our various duties, may you disperse us with your love, but unite us again, my Father, for this is our prayer in Jesus' holy name. Amen. God bless you.